Hi, I have in front of me a full motion curved TV mounting bracket. In reality, this bracket can be used either with a flat TV or with a curved one. So the reason we've added it into our product range is that this is the type of TV that's been heavily promoted now. There's some on the market already and it probably will become more popular over time. In terms of the size of TVs this particular bracket can support, it's 32 inches all the way up to 65 inches. And in terms of the design that they've used for it, it's pretty cool and it's relatively easy to assemble because it effectively comes pre-assembled. So in front of me on the table, I've divided things into three groups. The first thing is the accessories. So this is basically the screws here are bolts that would use for mounting the TV onto the bracket. This is the plugs and screws that would use for mounting the TV bracket onto the wall. And then we have some accessories here like the tools, a little spirit level as well, which would use for mounting to get things fully square. Okay. So in terms then of, and there's an instruction manual, what we have here is the bracket that will be bolted onto the wall, and it also provides the sort of the ability to come out and rotate the TV. And then finally what we have over here, we'll look at this in more detail in a moment, and finally over here we have the third part, which is the bracketry that will be actually bolted onto the TV that allows, and when we have that done, it just drops onto this bracket here. So top and bottom what I have here is two plastic covers. We're just using these for aesthetic reasons, and what we would do is, if we come along, we mounted this onto the wall, I'll just lift it up directly. What we would do is we would get our drill, would mark out our holes and use the spirit level to come along, for instance here, make sure it's fully square. And what we could do then is we will drill this out and mount it directly onto the wall. Now it's important to note there is an up and down on this, so we want a slot on top and we want a full hole here on the bottom because this is where the bracket holding the TV is going to drop in. And we can see the basic design of it there. So what we would do is we would get this plastic cover and we'll actually just use it then to cover up here, and it just slots down and it just leaves a nice finish and you can't see the bolts are going directly into the wall. What we're going to do at this point is I'm just going to lower this down and I'm just going to show you, I'll move these out of the way. If we come to actually mount this, the type of flexibility we have, well, we'll see here that the two brackets for mounting, this is giving you a better idea of how it works. So we'll see top and bottom with the brackets that are going to be bolted into the wall. We have this part here which will hold the attachment with the bracket that's on the back of the TV. And then we have the flexibility here to angle this. There's a tilt on it, up and down, so you can tilt the TV basically down. And in terms of getting the maximum extension on it, we can just push it here, and we can just see that we're able to angle it there like that. Okay, so it's very, very flexible and very rigid and strong in terms of the overall design of it. So that part there is pretty well covered at this point. I'm just going to move it out of the way. So if we can imagine we've come along, we've marked it out, we've bolted that in the wall, and it's just sitting there waiting for the TV to come up. Okay. What we'll do next is there's an aesthetic cover here that would mount here that's just going to mount onto this bracketry here. I'm going to actually leave it off here now, but what you do is you just click it directly on here like this. Okay. If we look at this bracket here, we'll see there's two bolts here, okay? And this is going to match up exactly with this here, but we need to do something first. And something we need to do is, we'll see here where we have a position where we could drop bolts in here and slot it in. So we slot it in here, drop it down. What we need to do here is, we need to actually come along and we need to mount these brackets onto this. So what we'll do is, we'll grab the bolts that we have here, we'll mount them straight through, and we hold it into position and we slide it down there and lock it in, okay? And we do the same top and bottom. When we have these brackets mounted, we can put them directly onto the TV using the bolts that I showed earlier, and depending on the size of the holes in the TV, it will depend on which one of these sets of bolts we use. There's 4 in each set. They're very small all the way to quite large, okay? And there's spacers there as well. So what we could do is, in terms of how it handles the curved television, it's quite clever. This is how the bracket comes straight, but there's a hinge on it. So we can hinge it around. So you can see there's a hinge that will go around on the curvature of the television here, and it's just self-adjusting there, okay? So we can do this top and bottom. So what we'll have done is we'll have come along, we'll have mounted this bracket top and bottom. So we can imagine that we have 2 of these, and depending on where we have will depend on the VESA standard of the TV. Basically it's the distance between the holes on the TV. So 200 by 200 is quite common. This one will actually handle anything up to 600 by 400. So there's great flexibility on it. The larger the TV, basically the larger the VESA hole that we'll be using. So what we'll do at that point is we'll come along, we have this bracket here. We have it upright like this, mounted on the wall, and what we're going to do now is we'll grab the TV with this, we push it in, we slot it in, it holds in there, and what we can do is we can bolt it directly in and hold it into that position. Obviously we'd normally have the television or the bracket fully extended to give the maximum access to be able to go in and tighten the nuts and bolts, etc. So we can see here we could have it out something like that, and it'd make accessing quite easy. So overall, it's a very, very clever design. It's a pretty high-end bracket. The price on it's pretty competitive. Particularly, I'd say, when you're comparing it to the prices you're going to pay for your TV and things like that. But we went with a premium supplier on this simply because we knew we wanted a really good thing. And if you look around, we'll say this is a sort of a niche product, but the overall design concept on it's good. And in terms of the build quality on it, you can probably pick it up pretty well in the video, but from the weight and things like that, this is a really sturdy bracket. So that's it anyway, an overview of the full motion curved TV bracket, supporting TVs from 32 all the way up to 65 inches, available on freetv.ie.